guys, Ryan Fowler here with Jordan Kurtz. It is Inner Game Group, MindChrysalis Live. And this is going to be a fun show today because we're going to crap all over the mental health industry because the data's coming out. I mean, it's been out. It's coming out more and more. It's getting worse. And now there are actually mainstream doctors. We're going to talk. Mainstream researchers, doctors, kind of showing that the crap that's been pushed on people, antidepressants, and some of the psychotherapy techniques do work to a point, but they don't work for many people. They don't work for half. They take forever. They're just really inefficient, and for most people, maybe help with the issue, but don't really fix it. Help partially after a year, 6 months, 3 months, whatever, 2 years, 5 years. So I know people doing therapy for 10 years and they're a little better, but not a lot. So we're going to talk about all of that today. We have a clip by Dr. Ryan Taraban, and I got to hand it to him. He's really great for pointing the facts out. We did a show a while ago on this, the corruption of the mental health industry, but mainstream people are talking about it now. So it'll be interesting. But first, Jordan Hertz Hypnosis. Jordan, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, your lighting is looking pretty good. It seems like we're both in the process of upgrading our studios for the show. Only the best.
I have a pro lighting kit. Thank you.
Looking good. I'm Jordan Kurtz. I do hypnosis. I help you end your limiting beliefs and unlock your full potential. If you want to work with me, jordankurtzhypnosis.com. Going through a whole rebranding phase too, or not rebranding, just branding at this point. So it's going good.
Yeah. So both Jordan and I are on our school MindChrysalis community. So we're going to show problems today with the mental health industry, and this is becoming very widely acknowledged now. And the replacement therapies they have, because they're old therapies or like antidepressants, have just so many ridiculous amount of problems and ridiculously low efficacy, basically placebo level. They're trying to come up with new replacement solutions, which to a point are better, but have their own problems. If you have tried the mental health industry because you have issues, now neither of us are psychologists, neither of us are psychotherapists. We are coaches, we're hypnotists, but people come to us and we fix their subconscious mind, or we don't do it. We show them how to fix their own subconscious and get big results. You can actually try it for yourself. If you're struggling with, maybe it's just procrastination, maybe it's a lot of anxiety, maybe it's some other things, but we actually have a free program you can try out for yourself. And I have people all the time. One guy, I haven't published his testimonial yet. I have it recorded. I might get to it this week. But one guy contacted me. He said, hey, I just wanted to say thank you. I did your free program. And one session, self-hypnosis, permanently took my procrastination from 9 out of 10 down to 3 out of 10. I've had other people tell me they're losing 50 pounds, this, that, the other. Free self-hypnosis course. It is actually going to show you how to go in. And now this is like the basic course. We also do one-on-one sessions. We have a more comprehensive course, but it's basic, but it's not watered down. It shows you how to go in and actually change parts of your subconscious mind. So to do that, now the link's in the description, down below. I'm going to put it in the comments too. But if you see issues with the mental health industry and you have struggles and you don't know where to go, consider this. Try it, because it very well could. So it's school.com/MindChrysalis-7138. We have a community here of people helping each other out. They're asking each other questions about all sorts of different stuff focused around. But look, there's a free course here. You click, you join, you go to the link, you join, we let you in right here, free course. There's training, there's worksheets, videos, there's audio, self-hypnosis audio. There's a free ebook on how the subconscious mind works and why it keeps you stuck. All this stuff available for download. There's a table of contents right there. So if you are ready to start up-leveling your life, 95% of from our subconscious. You can Google that. It's neuroscience. You'll see university articles. Everything we do, the researchers, the highest end researchers like Dr. Huberman, for example, last week's show, he's talking about hypnosis and how crazy effective it is. They know this stuff, but it hasn't got down to the mainstream practitioner level. You don't need to wait for them to get their shit together. Try it out for yourself now. Okay. I'm going to dive into these clips. I think we'll cover the Dr. Orion Taraban clip because he's going to expose the industry, the pharmaceutical industry. It's already been exposed, but now mainstream doctors are talking about it. Before we dive into that, Jordan, do you have anything you want to add about what we're talking about today or either of these clips?
Thinking about the Rogan one. How do I want to phrase it? Like what
the Rogan one's very interesting. They're both great clips.
Yeah,
we got to get to them both.
What she's going to talk about, I'll give you a sneak preview, is that I think the new generation, she talks about the millennial generation was more, from a psychological perspective, more ambitious and more willing to try new things and fail. And I think her analysis was that the generation after is much less likely to want to be risk takers and try new things and fail. And she suspects that's because, or she kind of postulates that it's people haven't responded to that generation by saying, oh, just get over it enough. And I think
I disagree with that. I'm going to disagree with some of this lady, but she says a lot of great stuff too.
Yeah, I'm setting up what she's going to say a bit. So I thought it was an interesting take. So I think we'll have a lot of good commentary on it, on the specifics.
Okay. So we're first going to listen to Dr. Orion Taraban. He has a really popular, rapidly growing channel called Psychacks. I love a lot of his stuff. He is more of like a CBT guy and a coach, which is great. We're more subconscious reprocessing, which is you're going to get bigger results when you reprogram your subconscious, but you do need to understand everything he's talking about too. So you really need a guy like him and subconscious reprogramming as well. You really need them both. So his stuff is great. He's going to talk about how depression's so misunderstood and how even the psychologists, practicing psychologists, pharmaceutical industry have just absolutely got it all wrong. So we'll watch that. And then we have a clip of Joe Rogan interviewing this journalist who's been investigating the mental health community and how it's been affecting Gen Z. So we'll get to that one too. But first, a Dr. Taraban clip from the very popular channel, Psychacks. And we'll just pause and comment at different points. And here we go.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psychacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is what people fail to understand about depression. Depression is one of the most commonly diagnosed mental illnesses on the planet. Legions of Americans are currently taking some form of prescribed antidepressant. It is a problem that affects the quality of life of millions and millions of individuals every day.
About 40% of college students, just so you know.
And it's also an issue that is generally misunderstood by the vast majority of people, including those suffering from it. Let's talk about this today. The principal way in which depression is misunderstood is that it is considered to reside entirely between the ears of the depressed individual. I call this the intrapsychic fallacy. And this fallacy gives rise to the two most popular approaches to intervention, neither of which, unfortunately, is associated with a very high rate of success. We can look at each one in turn.
Now, he's going to start talking about the medical community. We don't completely agree with Dr. Cherubon on everything. He has a lot of good info, though. So we're going to be disagreeing with him a bit, but what he's about to talk about, listen to this, guys. This is like ape shit. This is crazy, man. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry built on bullshit. Here we go. They're being exposed right now.
The first way this fallacy manifests itself is in the belief that depression exists in the brain of the depressed individual. You're probably familiar with some version of the mono-amine hypothesis, which I have previously discussed on this channel. The mono-amine hypothesis is the theory that depression is caused by an imbalance in certain brain chemicals like serotonin. And if this were true, it would make sense to recalibrate the balance of these brain chemicals using pharmaceutical interventions. Now, many people don't know that this hypothesis was actually recanted by its originator decades ago.
Notice he used the word hypothesis, which means what he's talking about right now is what the entire antidepressant industry has been built on was a hypothesis with no data. Now he's talking about how the data has been disproven. Here we go. This is Prozac, lithium. Well, lithium's a little bit in its own camp, but Wellbutrin, Paxil, Lexapro, just all this other crap. This is what he's talking. Billions and billions and billions of dollars based on shit, based on nothing. Here we go.
Due to a lack of evidence. To quote the largest meta-analysis ever conducted on the topic, quote, the main areas of serotonin research provide no consistent evidence of there being an association between serotonin and depression, and no support for the hypothesis that depression is caused by lowered serotonin activity or concentrations. Link to the full study in the pinned comment. Note that the finding was no association, which means the meta-analysis failed to identify even a correlation, let alone a causation between serotonin levels and depression.
But we have good news. If you want erectile dysfunction and to gain 30 or 40 pounds, then antidepressants can help you with that.
What's more, antidepressants that manipulate serotonin have a terrible track record in randomized controlled trials when compared against an active placebo. And why aren't these findings more widely known? I'm not sure, but I doubt it could have anything to do with the fact that there is an entire rationale for a multi-billion-dollar industry that is predicated on the validity of that hypothesis. But I
love his sarcasm.
The point here is that antidepressants are one of the inevitable consequences of considering depression to exist in the brain of the depressed individual. And the second way this fallacy manifests itself is in the belief that depression exists in the mind of the depressed individual. We could call this the cognitive hypothesis, which maintains that depression is caused by the presence of certain distorted beliefs about the self and the world. If these thoughts and beliefs were sufficiently restructured or brought into alignment with reality, then the depression should diminish significantly. And if this were true, it would make sense to restructure certain beliefs, like those related to the self-concept or associated with self-efficacy, using individual psychotherapy. And this isn't entirely wrong. Psychotherapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, is associated with a reduction in depressive symptoms. What's more, these reductions are typically more enduring than any reductions associated with psychiatric medications. That means that folks tend to derive a protective benefit from therapy even after it is discontinued that they don't derive from pharmaceuticals after they are discontinued.
And well, that's the key, right? Is
pause here, yeah.
Did you catch that qualifier?
I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Depressive symptoms.
Yeah, they're focusing on symptom management. And Gabriel, welcome to the show. We're going to respond to your questions in just a moment. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's just that's the... I mean, I guess... So I have two lines of thought. It's like, one, you have to... Like, how do you measure whether or not a drug is effective at treating... You have to measure symptoms in order to assess whether or not it's effective, sure, but that's also kind of the problem that, and that's how most CBT kind of works, is they look at when the symptoms of depression happen, what do you then do? Versus our model is, why are the symptoms happening at all? And can we address the cause?
Yeah,
and
fix the root cause.
And so even, and this is what's strange is like he's talking about how the entire industry is framed a certain way. I mean, that's how it's framed. It's how do we treat symptoms, not root causes. And it's that subtle shift has profound impacts over what they end up developing and pushing and regulating, and what psychotherapists end up prescribing and their methods that they use. So
yeah, psychotherapy can be helpful for, let's say, for depression. It helps about half of the people to some degree. But here's where I disagree with Dr. Orion Taraban. He's talking about cognitive behavioral therapy as if you're working on the entire brain. You're not. This is what you're working on. And this is why it takes so long. Let me go to this other thing here. Oops. Okay, here we go. This here, picture on the left, that's your prefrontal cortex, that blue area. This is where your cognitive function is. Your emotions largely come from the limbic system, which actually is several parts of the brain, but they're kind of in this central region here to the right of the prefrontal cortex. That's where most of the action is, and that's where your subconscious is largely operating. Now, I'm not saying that's the only place your subconscious operates. But I'm saying like your fight or flight syndrome, anxiety, emotions, just all that stuff. Again, I'm talking very broad strokes, largely comes from the limbic system in the middle. They're working on cognitive brain function. 2 + 2 = 4. Logic analysis to affect your emotions. Well, that's this front part of the brain. They're working on one part of the brain to indirectly affect another part of the brain. And they're connected, so it works to a point, but they're not. They are not engaging what's called neuroplasticity. We apply our brain's ability to be neuroplastic. In fact, we put you in a state where it's supercharged, where it's enhanced. And then we work on the subconscious. We don't work as much on the prefrontal cortex, your conscious mind, your logical subconscious. The reason we don't work on your conscious mind as much is you can just Google this. What percent of our behavior is subconscious? Now, I say behavior, it's going to mention everything. 95%. The subconscious mind makes up 95% of the brain, while the conscious only 5%. They are using conscious analytical cognitive methods as cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectic. People are consciously talking back and forth. You can go down here and there's articles by Auburn University. There's a Harvard one you can find if you keep going down. I mean, this is just established science. 95% of our behaviors are not conscious. Well, it's because 95% of the processing power in our brain is not conscious. So we work on the subconscious. We work where the action is at, and we focus on limbic system, emotions. You work directly on those. You don't work on your 2 + 2 = 4 cognitive mind to affect that. It's slow. It's ineffective. It doesn't work for a lot of people, and that's exactly the results that they're getting. So when he's saying, "Oh, we work on your brain with CBT," you're working on this part of the brain up front, which is not where the action's at. That's where you do long division, but rational thought. So, Gabriel, a lot of comments. Let's before we move on, do you have anything to add, Jordan? And then let's respond to Gabriel here.
No, we can respond to the question. So, DMT versus hypnosis.
DMT is a psychedelic,
right? Which is more of an aggregate. Well, they're very.
I'm not. Go ahead.
Well, a psychedelic is. I'm not familiar with how people. I've heard people use psychedelics in forms of therapy. I mean, my experience.
Yeah, ketamine's one that's legal. We'll talk about that a little later.
Well, I mean, what do you think? Because it's. I don't know if is ketamine as targeted towards specific beliefs, or is it more just a wash of
a few doses of ketamine can help with depression. It can help at a short term and a longer term. The theory now, we do commentary on Dr. Andrew Huberman, a lot of his stuff. He is a Stanford neuroscientist. He has some really great presentations. Go to his channel on psychedelics. He has one specifically for ketamine and what it does. I watch most of his stuff, as you can tell. He talks about neuroplasticity. And ketamine and a lot of psychedelics can put your brain in a very neuroplastic state, which then can allow for certain traumatic beliefs, certain psychological trauma to be rewired and gone. And there is a very interesting show on Netflix called How to Change Your Mind. It's about psychedelics. Some people experience profound healing pretty rapidly. It could be very rapidly with psychedelics. Some people have bad trips. It depends on which psychedelic. My dog is causing problems over there. Stop it, dog. Okay.
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of psychedelics you're using. Some people do shrooms. Some people do DMT. Some do ashwagandha. Ketamine is legal, although it's addictive. So be aware of that. It's actually ketamine is actually almost molecularly identical to PCP, just so you know, which was a drug. And some people will use ketamine like recreationally, like they use, weed or cocaine or whatever. They'll actually use it to kind of get this high and, so it has its own issues. But psychedelics can be very helpful, but to a point, they can cause problems too, although they're not as harmful as a lot of people think. And it does depend on how they're used. But go ahead, Jordan.
I was going to ask, do you think that it's addictive for the same reason other drugs are addictive, that it causes those it helps the individual let go of those feelings of toxic shame and enhance?
People use it to alter the mood and get high.
Right.
People are using ketamine recreationally. So not all psychedelics are addictive, but ketamine is. So, or it can be, rather, should I say. Now, so these DMT and other psychedelics, they can be used for trauma resolution, but they do make your brain neuroplastic. For our audience, neuroplasticity, science has proved this, that if you do things in a very specific way, or you do like what was probably most effective is to do certain psychedelics with like a guided session while you're under the influence. But neuroplasticity makes it so you can change your own brain. You can literally use your brain to rewire your brain. And it can happen fast, meaning you can make some core changes like that. Well, really, the sessions we do take a few hours. So you really, hour or two to rewire. And then after that, your brain will continue rewiring for a while on its own if you really get into the science. But you can make your brain neuroplastic and it literally rewires itself. And
we covered that last week, didn't we? If you want to learn more.
We covered that last week. So
the whole
psychedelics enhance neuroplasticity. And I'm speaking very broadly because there's psilocybin, DMT, all these other ones. So I'm MDMA, I'm talking very broadly. So if you say, well, this one, here's an exception to the rule, and this one does this, I'm just talking in the broadest of terms. At least some of them have shown to enhance the neuroplasticity of your brain. What hypnosis does is, guess what? Now, I've done sessions for people. I did a session for a guy who held ashwagandha ceremonies, which is a type of psychedelic for others. I've actually done it for 2 or 3 different guys who are like heavy psychedelic users, or they do it for other mushrooms, whatnot. I had one of them tell me, Ryan, your hypnosis session is like a less intense psychedelic trip, but more beneficial. Why? Why would they say it's more? I do believe hypnosis is more beneficial when it's done in a very specific way, which, by the way, you can try for yourself for free. School.com/MindChrysalis-7138. Link is in the description. Try it for yourself. It's not just, oh, I tried it, that was nice. Some people are changing their lives with our free stuff. I want that to sink in. But hypnosis makes your brain put your brain in an enhanced state of neuroplasticity, and then we go in a very targeted manner. We find and get you connected to a subconscious program that is messing up your life, and we remove it. For me, I typically fix 2 to 4, sometimes even 5 bad subconscious programs, one session, 60 to 100% gone. That's typical of my results. Yeah. And then I give people self-hypnosis, and if we didn't get all the way gone, they listen to the self-hypnosis, they get rid of the rest on their own. Some people are clearing another 15, 20, 2 dozen bad subconscious programs on their own with self-hypnosis afterwards, or even with the free program, clearing multiple bad subconscious programs on their own, whether it's 2 or 5, whatever. So hypnosis is like psychic surgery. It's like psychological surgery. We put your brain in a neuroplastic state where it can be fixed, where it can rewire itself, and then we target that specific thing and rewire it. A lot of times, psychedelics is you're taking a drug and you're putting yourself in a neuroplastic state, but you don't have this specific psychological surgery intent. You're just going on a trip. So for that reason, I believe overall hypnosis is better, but there's 5% of people I can't help with hypnosis. They may be able to be helped with psychedelics. And I am not recommending psychedelics, or I'm not endorsing or crapping on them because I'm not a medical professional. But I will say the facts are out there. Many people have fixed themselves with psychedelics. Some people have kind of messed themselves up a little bit too. So, do your own research, there
are no side effects to hypnosis either. So,
the only one I can think of is if we clear a lot of trauma, then a small percent, maybe 10, 20% of my clients will feel worse for maybe a day or 2 after their session, and then start feeling a lot better. That's the only side effect I can think of.
You might be tired or a little emotionally drained.
Yeah, it's like temporary.
Yeah. Because the stuff is intense, right? And I would almost postulate that if we've done a good job, that might be expected for some people, especially if the trauma is very intense. But I think what I like about hypnosis, I think, Ryan, you said it earlier, is that it's targeted. When you just take DMT or some drug or psychedelic or whatever, you're just slapping something. You're kind of like you're just putting on something to do something. I like the fact that what we do is specific to the individual we're working with, or if you're doing it on your own, you're dealing with specific issues which are uniquely yours, meaning it's exactly, not people have very similar, we have dive to the 5 for a reason, right? Because we notice
5 types of subconscious trauma. Yep.
Right. Because we notice after we work with so many people, everything kind of boils down to those 5, tends to. And so, but each person is going to have kind of their own flavor of maybe I'm not good enough for other people is a little worse than their anger, or vice versa, or something. So hypnosis allows us to specifically target the things that are ailing you,
messing you up, keeping you stuck, making you struggle, making you suffer.
Versus DMT, if you're just taking it to generally feel better, you lose that element of like, as an engineer, I like going to the root causes, and I know if I do X, Y, and Z, I will point right at the thing I want to hit. Versus a DMT is just kind of like a scatter shot of something might happen.
Well, and sometimes people do experience profound healing with psychedelics.
Right.
So
right.
That's a fact. So, but we're way more targeted. I got to tell you, I had people coming to me and they're like, I just want to book 3 sessions now, because there was a time where I was booked out like 3 months at a time, 5 months at a time. Now it's like 2 weeks. Probably because my fees are higher. But also, there's, but anyways, I'm booked out like a week or 2 now. Anyways, I had people because of that say, I want to book 3 sessions now. And I stopped allowing them to book 3 sessions at a time. I told them book 2 because half the people who booked 3 canceled their 3rd session. Why? Well, what they told me is like, you fixed all my shit in 2 sessions. I don't need the 3rd one. So I don't let people book 3 at a time now. Now, some people do need 3 sessions. Some need 5, but really most 1 or 2. Like 85% of the people come to me after 1 or 2 sessions, all their major stuff's resolved. Like permanently. Yeah. It's crazy. I had a guy prepay for 2 sessions, and we did the 2nd session, but the 2nd session was just like minor house clean. All the big stuff was already gone first session. You know, so
you don't always know.
That's when you target it, you can get stuff out very quickly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you don't always know too how, like, some clients I find they will, like, I find myself sometimes recommending off the bat clients do more than 1 session. Like, I can tell there's a lot of layers in this person, and I recommend, listen, you should just plan on doing 3.
Some do,
but you know, sometimes, and then I've also had the case where people have done that and then be like, wow, we made way more progress than I thought in 1 session.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, can I give? So I will let clients actually gift their other sessions to other people to spread it for
cool, man,
even more. But
we do have a fair amount of comments.
I was looking at that.
Let's get to these SSRIs. That's your conventional antidepressant, Gabriel. It stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It helps your brain absorb more serotonin. But they've done studies. They found out depressed people have the same serotonin levels as other people. That's what Dr. Ryan's Taraban's talking about, that there's actually not even a correlation between serotonin levels and depression. Ethics, when money's involved, things get screwed, you know, and that's what's happened with the pharmaceutical industry, but also the mental health industry in general. So there are modalities out there, techniques out there, super effective. We do them. We do some of them. But they're not a cash cow, so mainstream medicine ignores them. Well, you know, they're being exposed now for the corrupt assholes. Now, a lot of them are well-meaning and don't know any better, but at the top, they're just absolutely corrupt, despicable assholes. They really are. And greedy. And they're causing a lot of excess. They could fix suffering if they were honest, but they do all this other stuff, you know, because they want to make money. So to hell with them. You love Broca's section. I'm not sure what that is. Do you know what? Or
I think it's a Broca's. Broca's. It's the section of the brain.
Oh, okay.
I have to remember my high school psychology class. I have to remember which section.
Yeah. Now I'm not too familiar
Broca's
with DMT.
area.
I just know of it, Gabriel. Just so you know. Peeling back the layers. We talk about that, Gabriel. You fix one subconscious program, you are now feeling way better, doing way better, behaving better. And after a while, you're like, here's this other thing I'm struggling with. We call it layers of the onion. You peel that outer layer off, it's gone forever. There's another smaller layer underneath. We usually get the worst stuff first. That's the good news. The stuff that's messing you up the most. And again, we're not 100%. You know, about 5-6% of people come to me, I can't help. You know, but it's just so much more. I used to have manic depression. Don't have it anymore. I'm, you know, because I fixed it with this stuff. And I did 15 years of therapy first, on and off.
I assume he's talking about psychedelics in this comment. You know, I'm curious if somebody like you or I, who had done a lot of hypnosis on themselves and cleared a lot of traumas. I'm curious if one of us were to have a psychedelic experience. Have you done psychedelics before?
No, have you?
No, I haven't. But I'm curious if we would, since we've cleared a lot of our internal traumas, if we would have the
plan
same...
to at some point. I'm in Mexico City now, so I plan to at some point.
That's true.
Actually, certain psychedelics are legal where I'm at.
If somebody who's really sorted out their inner subconscious world if they would have the same effects of psychedelics as someone who hasn't. Because I'm wondering if the psychedelic experience is enhanced by the things that you don't want to look at right in your mind. And so, but if you've cleared all those, I'm kind of curious if, I don't know if they've done, I don't think anyone's done a study on that, but I might postulate that somebody should test this out. Postulate if the experience would be different.
Either you or I will go on a trip, and when we come back, we'll report.
Yeah, maybe do it together.
All right. So, but the thing is I wouldn't say all my bad subconscious programs are gone, but I would say probably 95% are. And the other 5%, I could get rid of them, but it's just like, they're not that big or whatever. By the way, when you fix your subconscious, doesn't mean you become a robot. A loved one dies, you're going to be devastated because a loved one died. Sometimes anxiety serves you. Sometimes anxiety warns you of danger. So we're never saying, but we can get rid of anxiety that doesn't serve you. Get rid of anxiety that holds you back from getting what you want, going for it. So I have some advice for you, Zachary, but just recently went through a breakup. He has this conflict back and forth, right decision or not. So it kind of sounds like you did the breakup. Is that right, Zachary?
Yes, he broke up with his girl on Thursday. I'm
Give
familiar. So my thought, if it's the right decision or not,
give it time.
Get rid of this inner conflict. Well, what are you like? What is the conflict? If it's something like, did I do the right thing? Well, because I think that doing the right thing is more tied to, so like we frame everything through that lens of toxic shame, right? And so if you are, because breaking up with someone can be, even if you don't like them anymore, can still be difficult. There's never I mean, you're a sociopath if you break up with someone and you feel nothing, right? It's not, that's just not how it works. So, but there's that feeling, if you breaking up with her is triggering this feeling of, I am not socially accepted, like that subconscious if it's triggering a program in your head of, I'm not good enough for other people, or my actions, or I can't get along with others, or other people don't like me. If the act of doing that is triggering that program in your head, if you have it, you may or may not have it, then that would be something we could help with. And so you talk about the inner conflict. Well, that might be what the inner conflict is if you're concerned about this social approval. Because I think you've said in our chats before, you logically you think you did the right thing, but emotionally you're like, oh, is this good? Is this not? And so is that, what do you think, Ryan? Is that a fair analysis? Or
here's just real quick my response. Even if it's the wrong thing, it's not the end of the world. You'll be okay. Give it some time and it will become more clear. Maybe you, Jordan, this is not central to our show, so maybe Jordan and Zach, you can talk a little more one-on-one, but give it some time. And even if it's not the right choice, it's not the end of the world. You'll be okay. There's other great relationships out there. So with that said, I do want to get, back on topic, but thank you, audience. We always care about your comments. So, moving back to, we'll finish up the Psychacks, and then we've been taking a lot of time, so we really got to just get through this. Here we go.
Well, we like the audience engagement, though. We really
do. Keep the comments coming, guys.
Certain therapeutic interventions might be necessary, though perhaps not entirely sufficient, to eliminating depression. For instance, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to recover from depression while the critical inner voice is still active and highly engaged. And psychotherapy can significantly help to silence this insidious introject. In any case, the point here is that individual psychotherapy is one of the inevitable consequences of considering depression to exist in the mind of the depressed individual. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might. Thanks button, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. I will also soon be starting a weekly newsletter reason, check out my top-rated It's Wrong with the interest it comes from, namely people's relationships to their larger environments. Of particular note is the fact that depression is associated with being low status in a self-relevant dominance hierarchy. Life is hard at the bottom of the ladder. Low status individuals are more likely to have limited, if any, optionality with respect to professional opportunities and little to no access to sexual relationships. They may have few to no friends or close confidants. They may be ignored or even reviled by those around them. And while it is possible, strictly speaking, to be peaceful and contented and resilient at the bottom of the hierarchy, it is extremely difficult to do so. And
extremely difficult with conventional techniques. Would you agree? What do you think about what he's saying here? Being low status, having a lot of struggles is going to make people depressed. What's your take, Jordan? Oh, Jordan, you're muted, sir.
Oh, it's that word of status, right? So
that's all. By the way, that's all
on
perception. You perceive
right.
your low
status.
I
always unpack it. There's what you think about yourself and what your relationship is kind of to society, right? And so if you believe yourself to be a low status person, like that is your subconscious belief that it's difficult, then yeah. But even if you are quote low status, maybe you don't have a lot of money, maybe you don't have the social skills you want yet, but you believe that you should be that kind of person and you'll naturally pull yourself to a better state. And so remember that it's that locus of control, right? And so if you believe that your actions have the potential to pull yourself into a better scenario, then you'll naturally be happier because you have internally, you feel you're good enough for whatever desires you want. And whether that be relationships or businesses or better career opportunities, whatever it might be. And so that word status I had to unpack that because that's the key.
Yeah. And see, here's the thing. A low status person today, can still have like their smartphone, Xbox 360 or Xbox One or whatever's replacing that now. I don't play consoles anymore. PS5, they can have electricity, functioning toilet, air conditioning, heating, internet, and maybe they have a beat up car. Or, maybe they don't have a car, but they take the bus, Uber, other transportation, whatever. Well, guess what? No one had any of that 100 years ago. Right. You might have had a car 100 years ago. Most people didn't. 200 years ago, no one had any of that. 95% of people were in, poverty or extreme poverty 200 years ago.
Right.
But they weren't depressed. Why? Because it's perception. It's going on Instagram and saying, look at all these people who have Lamborghinis and hot girls and look at Dan Bilzerian. I'm not that. It's perception. It's perceiving you have low value. So I was raised in a home where my mom has narcissistic personality disorder full blown. Because of that, I had very severe depression with mild manias, bipolar type 2, manic depression, among other things, anxiety just all the time, constant state of anxiety, internal rage at just being constantly made to feel worthless, every type of psychological warfare used against me, bullied like crazy because the bullies see here's a kid who doesn't feel good about himself. He's weak. He's a loner. Let's pick on him. He's not going to have anyone come to his defense. So bullied, all that crap. Found self-hypnosis, low level of depression 11 years ago. Fixed some of the depression with 100 normal therapy sessions. It did help somewhat. But I found self-hypnosis. The feelings of work, by the way, at that time, no success with women at all either. Like zero success. So, getting ghosted, flaked on, trying, not getting anywhere, having a first date on occasion, no second date, etc.
Brian, your camera's off.
Oh, okay. Man, I'm not sure why that happens. Switch to webcam. It's been doing it lately.
You want me to?
Go
ahead.
Yeah, here we go. Boom. All right. So I found hypnosis, and within 2 months, all my depression was gone. And honestly, within like a week or two, just started feeling happy for no reason. Happy for no reason, and all the depression, all the anger gone. Less than 2 months, honestly, and really within a week or two, started feeling way better. Just seeing profound internal changes in me. And then within 2 years, my outward circumstances did change. My income doubled. And then I actually tried to double my income, and it doubled again, a few years after that. And then I sustained that. I sustained my average income got to about $190,000 a year, which is, plenty to be happy, right? Or I'm not saying money makes you happy. Money can make you less unhappy, because when you're poor and you're struggling, that can cause anxiety and stuff. But you can fix your inner world, and then it will lead to all these other things. It's your perceived low status, your perceived low value, and we have all these things no one had 200 years ago. So, and just by feeling like deep down confidence, all of a sudden people are treating you better. Not just my experience, but many of my clients, they're getting more dates, because now they have this inner authentic confidence. They don't have to go around wearing a mask, trying to be acceptable, trying to people please or validate. They're already validated. All of a sudden, people treat them better. All of a sudden, they're getting more dates. All of a sudden, they get promoted. Fixing it. You can fix, and Dr. Taraban does correctly say it is able to be peaceful and be low value and have all this good stuff. He says it's difficult because he doesn't know what we know. It's not as difficult as you might think. You just have to know what to do, and you have to do the work. You do. But you don't have to do a lot. You have to do some serious work, but it's not a ton before you start seeing benefits. It doesn't take going once or twice a week to a therapist for a year. It doesn't take anywhere near that, like a fraction of that, And again, we're speaking in very broad terms. Some of my clients do have to work a little harder. Again, 5%, 6%, somewhere around there, that I just can't help, But the vast majority, including myself, Jordan, you found me, I did a session for you. Your testimonial, your interview is on my YouTube channel. It changed your life. Those were the words you used. I was trapped in a cage, changed my life. Am I right?
Yeah, I think it was one of the first couple interviews you did, actually.
Did it? Tim Costello, normally on the show, I changed his wife's life. And she's doing way better. Tim's always had good self-esteem, but I've known him for a long time. But sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
No, it's good. Do you want to move on to the Rogan clip, or is there more? Getting close to the hour.
Yeah, let's go on to the.
Is there more of this you wanted to look at?
Let's watch just a little bit more. Let's go to the Rogan clip, and we'll comment a lot less on the Rogan clip. Here we go. Moving forward.
Those who reside at the lowest rungs of these hierarchies are typically those least equipped with the skills to mitigate the effects of their status. And guess who always starts out at the bottom of any given status hierarchy? Young men. As soon as you get out there at 18, you are at the bottom of the barrel. That's why this is a particularly insidious disease among young men, this kind of status-oriented depression.
And that is a real thing. We're just saying you can fix it.
The fact of the matter is that many people are depressed because of the actual state of their lives. Unfortunately,
their actual state of their lives and how they perceive themselves in relation to others.
Symptoms of depression can keep people mired in this state much longer than is necessary. This is not only because depression is unjustifiably pessimistic or even hopeless about the future, and so inappropriately assumes that the way things are is the way they're always going to be, but because depression is associated with behavioral inertia, which makes constructive, concerted effort to alter the unfavorable state of things less likely as well.
So, just to quickly summarize, then let's go on to the Joe Rogan clip. What he ends up saying is if you change your behavior, don't just focus on your mind, but change what you do, and that'll get you less depressed. I think there's some truth to that. But it's still not fixing the core stuff, which is the number one way to fix your behavior is first fix your subconscious. We Googled it earlier. What percent of our behaviors depend on our subconscious? 95%. A lot of people cannot fix their behaviors if they have too much internal trauma. You got to fix the trauma first. But For those of us who have power to make some changes, because the trauma is not too severe, which is honestly most of us, maybe 80-90% can make some changes. It does help with depression. Do that too, but fix internal trauma. That's start with that. It's going to affect behavior more than anything else. It's going to help with the depression more than anything else. So I'd say that would do it for this clip. Do you have anything to add? And then we'll
he said real quick, he's like 18-year-old males they're at the bottom of the status hierarchy and they're more depressed. It's like, well,
not all of them are depressed.
Right, but it's like that line of thinking is more like, oh, you just have to make yourself better, and then you'll pull yourself out of depression. Because, Robin Williams examples that came on the head. Became super successful comedian, everyone loves him, top of the status or whatever, and he still, self-deleted because he didn't feel good
Kurt
enough.
Cobain, Marilyn Monroe.
External status is not going to solve what's internal.
Yeah, and another thing is. If you live in other cultures, I lived in the Philippines for 2 years. I'm in Mexico now. There are societies that are classified as dopaminergic and societies that are classified as more serotonin based. So there are some societies where they're much more about human connection and community and extended family, community, and everyone's connections with each other. That is much more emphasized than achievement. Philippines is a great example. The Philippines is a great example. There is a sense of community in the Philippines. People know each other. People are very outgoing, friendly, hospitable, loving. They're poor. By and large, they're poor. They struggle. But status, it still has a role, but it's such a lower emphasis on status. So again, Dr. Ryan Terabant is really talking only about societies who are in these types of where they really emphasize, status, wealth, all these things. There are billions of people that aren't even in societies that emphasize achievement, but we emphasize it so damn much in Western culture, and that's why it's really screwing people up. But there's a lot of 18-year-old men who are confident, who are just fine.
I think that's a good lead up to the Rogan clip.
Yeah.
You just said,
okay. Let's go to the Rogan clip. It really is your perception of the world and your subconscious belief systems, all that stuff. There is a lot of merit to what he says in certain contexts. I agree. Okay. This is good. So this journalist Abigail Shrier doing research about
Gen Z on Joe Rogan. And one of the hardest, most worrisome parts of this generation is that they have the lowest sense of efficacy. They report an
They're going to talk about mental health, and it gets
self-efficacy.
Control, meaning they don't think they can improve their lives. See, millennials.
That'll cause depression, but that is just an internal state. If you're like, I'm low value now, but I got tons of potential, and I'm gonna kick ass in the world, and then you can have a belief system where you're gonna be just fine.
Thought they could do anything, right? They are the Mark Zuckerberg generation, and that's why we had so many tech founders in that generation. We're not seeing that with these young people. They don't want to be in charge. They're afraid, and they don't feel up to it. I talked to there's a friend of mine I call every year on her birthday, and she's a research scientist, cell biologist, and every year she invites kids to her lab for an internship who are top kids, pre-med graduates from college before they go into med school. And she said to me in the last decade, when I called her this year for her birthday, she said to me, I can't believe you're writing about this generation. They are so different. And I said, tell me why. She said, I'm seeing the smartest, most prepared kids, and they're afraid to run their own experiments. They tell me they're getting ready. They're working on their skills. They're not yet up to it. And they constantly report to me about their mental health.
I'm not good enough.
How they're feeling today. They can't just take a chance and go with it.
Because they feel if they take a chance and fail, it means they're not good enough. Toxic shame is getting worse and worse and worse.
Or maybe more accurately, it reinforces the belief they already have that they're not good enough. If I fail, it confirms that I'm not good enough.
Yeah, you can have this belief in your core. If I fail, I'm just practicing, learning, and growing. I keep going until I win. It's all good. And when you fail, you don't feel bad. There are people like that in this world, exactly like that. Gen Z is struggling otherwise.
And, when you're doing experiments, those experiments are expensive too. It's not just like, and so I can understand to a certain extent, I'm an engineer. I've worked in engineering labs. When you're experimenting with potentially tens of thousands of dollars of equipment, and you fail or you break something or you fry a electrical board or something, not saying I've ever done that, of course, but just theoretically,
Your secret safe,
but that if you have that subconscious belief of, if I fail, I'm not good enough, and you fail and it's really expensive, that's
toxic chain will make it way worse.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep going. Now they're gonna get into mental health. This gets interesting. Oh, I don't know. Oh, all right. Sorry, guys. My YouTube Premium for some reason did not renew. I need to fix that.
Parent, like, you want to hear kids out, and when they're having like some sort of anxiety and issue, you want to talk with them and you want to talk through it. Sure. You don't want to tell them, hey, you're gonna have to suck it up. I never say that, and I probably should. I mean, I don't know if I should, but I mean, if I had boys, I probably would. I think I would probably treat them differently. But I think that there's a fine line. Like, where is the point of diminishing returns? Like, where is it valuable to address feelings and anxiety and thoughts? And is it irresponsible to do so without giving them tools to mitigate those things? And along with those tools, to explain to them that there's things that they're going to have to do in this life that are very difficult, but that there's a great reward in doing these very difficult things.
So the problem, as I see it, is not that you're not saying suck it up. It's that no one ever says suck it up, no matter how minor the scratch to these kids. Okay. And sometimes being told you'll live. Remember when dad used to say you'll live or, shake it off? We never hear shake it off anymore. No one says it. So they don't know they can overcome even minor injuries. And the truth is they can. They can. But they recently did these studies on these, coping techniques. They taught coping techniques to teenagers, over 1,000 teenagers in Australia. It was called the Wise Teens Program. They talked to, and that was the point. It was just to help them with emotional regulation. And it turned out it made kids sadder and more anxious. They measured this. And the reason was regularly ruminating on your bad feelings can make you feel worse.
Did you talk to therapists when you?
They're talking about therapy here. Therapy can make people worse if it's done wrong. And a lot of these are professionals doing this and made the kids worse. Go ahead, Jordan.
I don't like the frame he puts it in. It's like, well, shouldn't we tell kids at some point to just, what do you say, suck it up, or like get over it? So here's my approach. I would say you can still validate the feeling, but then still provide encouragement to keep going. You don't have to just, because I think saying, what do you say? It's not going to kill you, or it's, what was the phrase she uses? I can't remember
I don't know. Suck it up.
You'll live, right?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Get over it.
So here's be my approach is like, you'll live is kind of it's a little dismissive, but it's be like, I would just say, still be encouraging to them to keep going, but don't dismiss that they have the feeling, but still encourage them to keep going. Like, it's not like, but you focus on maybe the process rather than the emotion, but you don't negate it. And so, because I'm thinking like little kids, right? You don't want to, like, if you tell a little kid that their feelings are invalid over and over and over again, that's going to make them emotionally numb. That's not what you want. You want to say, okay, your feelings are valid, but there's more than those still, and you can keep going despite those, or you can, so what do you think about that?
Here's my take. There are times where we just got to perform. There are times you do have to suck it up. There are times where it's like, all right, it's hard, keep going. Get shit done. Now, but afterwards, if you're still struggling internally, then address it afterwards. So, because there's two dichotomies here. There's one about every little thing you make a big deal, or you talk it out and go to therapy over just all this stuff, and it just gets you more depressed. if, you know, and again, sometimes therapy does help some people, but when done a certain way, it can make things worse. If you're just talking about your problems over and over and over and focusing on that without fixing it. So, there's that camp about just talking it, being extra sensitive and caring and all that. And then there's a camp about shut up, stop complaining, suck it up, get to work. You know, life's tough, get a helmet. There was that one lady said that recently. Candace Owen, she said that recently to this super woke blonde girl. She like life tough, get a helmet. But here's the thing: if you push everything down, if you never address your trauma or stuff you're struggling with internally, if you're just told suck it up, there's never any support. There's never a time where you can talk it through. If it's really bothering you, that will screw people up as bad or worse than you really got to find this in between. So what I do with clients is they come to me and we'll spend 2-3 hours, sometimes more, talking about what they struggle with, but then we fix it. And then you don't have to go back and ruminate anymore because it's freaking gone. It's fixed. Right. That's the way to do it. Talk it over if you need to, and then move on. And if you can't move on because something's in your subconscious, fix that part of yourself. If you have these bad belief systems that are painful, feeling not good enough, you know, feeling I can't get what I want, I'm hopeless, I don't fit in, I'm not accepted by others, you know, I was bullied as a kid and I still have resentment for these guys. And I'm bitter now because I was bullied as a kid. I'll lash out at people, you know. So you got to resolve that stuff. Don't just suck that up, fix it. But in the moment when you have work to do, sometimes you just got to do the work and put your emotions aside to get the job done. You really got to do both. Yeah,
I agree. It's more nuanced than just simply suck it up. You know, it's right.
She's making a very good point here, though, and she's going to keep talking about these therapists. She's going to talk about. You're going to see tons of bias here that these therapists have. It's really, really interesting. EC Smooth, welcome to the program. Nigel, thanks for your comments. You too. Eagle Cloud. Man, I don't know what's going on with my my camera. Usually it goes the whole session just fine, but it's done it like last 2 or 3 times after half an hour. So I have to figure out what's going on there. But thank you for the advice, Eagle Cloud. I'll check that out. This next part is pretty juicy. So let's play this part because, man, the mental health industry has to change because I'm not saying they don't do any good. Sometimes they do. But so much of their methodology just sucks. And there's research out there that there are better methods. We do better methods, way better, not just a little better, like massively better. And they're not doing it. They suck. I've been through it. I've done 100 sessions, so I have a right to say, oh man. Anyways, we'll keep going. Listen to this crap. This part coming up.
Yeah, a lot of therapists.
Yeah. How many of them agree with you?
So there was a huge split.
Listen to this.
The academic research psychologists overwhelmingly agreed. They were aware of the literature and they said, yeah, these are bad practices. Here are things we shouldn't be doing with kids.
The researchers who aren't practicing, they know the data is massive.
What was interesting is a lot of the clinical therapists were either minimized the risks of therapy or denied that there were any.
Biased, personally corrupt, lacking integrity, unethical, because they're getting paid to do it. That's why.
But isn't that like Jiffy Lube? Like when you tell them you don't need to change your oil that much. Well,
the researcher just gets paid to do research. They don't have that bias because they're not getting paid to do it.
Their business change oil.
Right. Exactly. So like I talked to this one amazing, child psychologist who said to me, I start by having my patients sign a waiver in which they acknowledge that there can be risks. And the reason I would do that is because I don't want them to experience harm. So if they see that their worries are getting worse, they have to tell me.
Huh. Well, do they? Would they? I mean, it seems like the therapist is the one who's in control, right?
Right.
The therapist is the expert. They're the one who has the authority.
Right. Well, I mean, this one was Camilo Ortiz was one of the, he was the one I talked to and he was the one that I was referring to there. And first of all, he always starts a therapy by setting the number of sessions. It's not, he doesn't treat a kid like an annuity. You're going to, be my income stream for years.
Right.
He attacks, and also they come to him with an actual problem, like chronic bedwetting, like, various kinds of phobia. There are people who treat anorexia. They're tackling a problem.
Right.
That's an ethical therapist. They don't know the techniques we know.
Yeah.
I should reach out to that person because that's an ethical person. Once they see what we know, I'll teach them.
But that's
they're doing the best they know. A lot of people don't know what we know. Hey, but that's an ethical one. Many are not. Go ahead, Jordan. Sorry.
That's why I think Dive to the 5 is effective, because we're addressing, I'm not good enough. I have anger towards this
Fix
person.
The problem.
But it's narrow. It's narrow enough and focused enough on that specific subconscious belief, and it's similar to the bedwetting or phobias. It's like that we're going in to fix or address, I'm not good enough, right? And so,
get people better. Remember, I think it's Cheryl Burke, the Dancing with the Stars lady. We did a show on her, and she mentioned she had 2 therapists for 10 years. She goes to therapy once a week with each therapist for 10 years. Cheryl Burke is an annuity. She's an income stream for those therapists. Right. Shame on them. Shame on them, because they're not trying to get her better.
Or they just don't know.
It's shame.
But
whatever.
Either way, it's not.
They need to up their game. They just straight up need to up their game.
And some of those therapies are extremely necessary and very successful.
When this person that you were just describing, if they get someone that comes to them that doesn't have a real problem, do they turn them away?
Well, you can ask, but very often therapists don't turn them away. That's the problem.
Right.
Too many therapists. I mean, I saw, I think back to the first book, and I would ask, did anyone have a therapist who said, you know what? I don't think the trans identity fits you. Right. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. In almost no cases did the therapist stop a girl from going down that road. No, you don't have gender dysphoria. Listen, it's mostly little boys. Okay, it's overwhelmingly starts with little boys, and you see it in men. It's overwhelmingly male phenomenon, and it always starts ages 2 to 4. So you discovering this at age 12, let me tell you something, with your friends, it's so unlikely. We don't even need to go there. They never said that.
Well, I think they get scared of the blowback as well.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And what they would hear from their parents. You're telling my child they don't have a problem when they have a problem.
Well, also the incentive is for therapists to treat the least sick for the longest period of time. That's the incentive. Because you don't want the schizophrenic patient who really needs you.
Right.
They're really hard to treat.
Almost impossible.
Almost impossible, right? You don't want the bipolar patient.
Right.
Some people will refuse to see those patients. But a teenager with a little social anxiety, parent pays on time, they're not getting violent in your session.
Oh, boy.
I heard the story about Jim Carrey, the famous actor, when I was a kid. I've
actually turned away clients before. I think there's only been one, but we had a conversation. I'm like, listen, what you've told me, I don't think you need my help. I mean, you can come back, we can talk in a few months, but from what you've told me, I'm not going to try and sell you a session, because I don't think your issues are I haven't found anything that I think is really that important to deal with.
I've had a few clients who did my free stuff, and they canceled their session because my free stuff did it for them. And I'm like, well, just give me the money. I fix your issue. But it's like, hey, it is what it is, and it's like, I'm glad, I'm the one who made it free. And the reason I make it free is I want people to try it and realize how powerful it is, because of my mission to change the world with this. So if I change someone's life, there's going to be plenty of people who need a one-on-one session. So, hey, it's all good. But I've had a few like that. They're like, I tried your free stuff and it fixed me, so I canceled my session. Thanks, man. All right. It's like, all right. Yeah. Cool. Is
there more of this clip? Was there a split?
I think that's probably it for today. Okay. She's showing how biased this industry is, and how Dr. Orion Taraban, those antidepressants, research has proven their efficacy rate, their effectiveness of the SSRI antidepressants to be 40%. Well, guess what? That's about what placebo is. But with the antidepressants, you get the benefit for many people of a weight gain, erectile dysfunction, and a bunch of other stuff, decreased libido. Great. Sign me up for that, right? So that's our show for today. If you guys are struggling, if you want to try mainstream medicine out, I mean, we are not medical professionals, so we're not telling you to do it or not to do it. We're reporting the facts. We're commenting on what other people are saying, because they're being exposed. They're just flat out being exposed. There's a lot of scientific studies out there now showing that the antidepressants are, that the entire hypothesis for why those antidepressants should work has literally been disproven. And they're still prescribing these antidepressants. Many psychiatrists are still prescribing them, even though the data shows they work 40% of the time maximally, which is about placebo. These therapists doing practices that sometimes even make their clients worse, not giving proper disclaimers, using the clients as an annuity and income stream instead of actually. And there are ethical, even with cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, it can help some people. So I'm not saying it won't. And I'm not saying that every psychologist is unethical. I think there's many good ethical ones. But the industry, because of the less effective methodologies that they put out as cutting edge, number one, bullshit. Their industry needs an entire overhaul. It really does. And so if you guys have been trying this stuff, if you guys are struggling with certain things, if this has worked for you, their methodologies do work for some people. Great. But if it hasn't worked to the level you want it to, or if you're struggling and you don't even want to go there, because a lot of people know the mental health industry has a bad rap. A lot of guys do not want to go to therapists because they know they just don't like them. They know they're not effective. There are other options. Consider what we have to say. All it costs you is your time. The program itself is free on our school.com, and we invite you to investigate it, try it out, and see how it works for you. So that's all I had. Do you have anything final, Jordan?
Yeah. I mean, the framing of the issue, like they always talk about they're circling a solution. They're understanding like Rogan and Abigail. They're circling the main issue, but they need to our stuff works because we take the above view of the problem of mental health, and we understand the reason we're able to do so many breakdowns every week about this type of stuff is because they're looking at the problem from all these different sides. But I think our model is effective at looking at it from the top. And because they talk about, the therapist, they don't want to have, it's just like, these are just symptoms of the larger issue, which is all in all the inner subconscious mind. It's like they talk about, when this happens and this happens and, therapists do this and this, it's like, these are just symptoms of the larger issue, which is how do you deal with the subconscious mind? And that's why I love hypnosis, because I think we are ahead of all these people, and our mission is to get this out to the world. So, and thank you everybody for your comments and engagement in the chat today.
Yep. Thank you. I'm trying to type LOL Zachary. Anyways. Yeah, so good times. That's our show for today. You guys do have no more power than you know. The science and the data is out there about what we do. There are world-class leading scientists that are now acknowledging, talking about methods, not just what we do, other stuff too. I think in 10 to 20 years, our methodology, along with some other stuff, psychedelics are starting to become much more prominent. Maybe it's 5 years, but 10 years, our methods are going to be mainstream. Science is getting there, but good grief, they take a long time. They'll get there. And we're going to try and accelerate and take this mainstream as quickly as we can. We're a small show, but we're growing. We're upgrading stuff. I'm going to start a new format. So we're going to do the live show once a week, and then I'm going to do like kind of a 10-minute compact, a tight educational thing once a week, high production values. So We're learning how to market. We're ramping it up, and we're going to take it big. We're going to take it mainstream because the world needs this. So thanks for watching, guys. You really do have more power than you know. And that is our show for today. Thank you. Oh, which one?